Hello and happy Sunday, everybody. Welcome back to another Sleep For You Live. Today, I'll be discussing sleep and health trackers. Love them or leave them. So, as a disclaimer, I'm not sponsored by any health tracking company, and I have used some in the past, not currently using anything. But yeah, I get asked about this a lot. A lot of my patients use them, and it's really popular. One report showed by 2025 the sleep tracking industry will be worth over $60 billion. So that is ginormous. One of my biggest questions when somebody comes in and asks me about their tracker, I always ask them why. You know, what are you doing with this data? And A, is it helping you? B, or is it not helping you? Certainly, people want to improve their health. And if you're here today, yes, you are here to learn about how women can improve their sleep health and really live optimal lives or live whole lives. And that's really my mission here because I strongly believe that a well rested woman has the energy, clarity, and drive to change the world, right? And let's make this world a better place. Will sleep tracking help us get there? Potentially. Um, it always depends on the cause, right? So if you want to improve your sleep and health habits, take a look at it. The best way to change something, right, is to understand what you're actually doing. So, self awareness is one of the first steps of behavior change. And it's really interesting because some of the trackers have really interesting data, and it may be an indication if you see something abnormal that you should talk to your healthcare provider about it. You should talk to your doctor and potentially even see a sleep doctor and get a sleep study. To track for the sake of tracking because your friends are doing it, it's really gamified. Well, check your motivation. And then another question is someone with insomnia, should they be tracking their sleep? And it all depends. There's actually a condition called orthosomnia where if you're over tracking your sleep and in the pursuit of perfectionism, it actually can lead to insomnia because you have a lot of anxiety in and around it. So, with that said, what are some of the benefits of tracking your sleep? Well, it's pretty easy to do. There's a lot of different apps and devices and even mattress pads that can help. So, I'll break it down into different categories. So there's a pad that you can actually put underneath your mattress, and I'm not going to talk about specific brands today. There's other devices that are called nearables, or actually nothing is touching you. It's a device that can sit on your bedstand near your bed or mattress. And then wearables, so things like rings or watches or straps. And what I really like about the idea of sleep tracking in general is that there's so much PR. It's talked about, it's all over social media. And the more we talk about how important sleep health, it really just makes my job easier because then I don't have to explain, why you should sleep. I think it's really helpful because it helps us shift from that hustle culture, work, work, work. I'll sleep when I'm dead, or I'll sleep when I'm retired. So yeah, it's pretty easy to do if you want to invest in a different type of tracker. There are certain apps that you can just download for not too bad of a cost. And in terms of some of the cons, the question is always accuracy. So they've actually done what we call validation studies, where you compare the tracker to the gold standard for sleep, which is something called the polysomnography. And when you take a look at sleep versus wake, does a pretty good job, probably 80 to 90%. But then when you get into the weeds where you talk about the different stages of sleep, stage 1 and 2 are considered light sleep. There's stage 3, which is deep sleep. And then there's REM sleep, which some of the trackers do sort of delineate between these different types of stages. The variability in accuracy can be anywhere between 40% to 70%. And a lot of my patients sort of get hung up on these numbers. Doc, I'm not getting enough deep sleep. How can I get more deep sleep? Or this said I didn't get any REM whatsoever. And one of the reasons is we can take a look at how these trackers actually work. So a lot of them are proprietary algorithms, so we don't know exactly, but accelerometry is one of them. So accelerometry is movement. If you're asleep, technically you're not necessarily moving, but you can move in your sleep up until REM. because we don't want you to act out your dreams. So your body actually is paralyzed, typically your skeletal muscles. So you don't act out your dreams. Your diaphragm is still moving. Other stages of sleep, you can really move in deep sleep. If you do move in deep sleep and you sleepwalk, you sleep talk, that's actually called a parasomnia. Kids have a lot more sleepwalking because they have more deep sleep or stage 3 sleep. As we get older, it goes away. But if you're still having these things, it may be something to look into because there could be an underlying sleep condition like obstructive sleep apnea. And so, one of the biggest things to note is that sleep trackers are not medical devices. As far as I know, I mean, there are things called actigraph that some researchers use, sleep researchers use, some sleep clinics use them. They are medical grade to measure sleep duration, sleep onset, wake up after sleep. However, typical consumer type products are not FDA approved. And for that reason, I guess that's why they're not so stringent in terms of accuracy of sleep stages, because they're only using it for the sake of data. They're not using it for any type of medical diagnosis. And so that is something really to keep in mind. Whereas there's actually some pretty cool heart trackers where you can look at your heartbeat and that can actually look at your heart rhythm. And yeah, I know cardiologists use that kind of data and it's really cool. I think eventually we'll get there with sleep, but we're not quite there yet. So some of the cons are accuracy. They're not medical devices. You can develop something called orthosomnia. Some of the best practices that I recommend to my patients who do decide to use sleep trackers is use it as in a measure, a tape measure, or a scale, right? If you're going to change a behavior, maybe you're going to go through some insomnia classes, or maybe you're going to read a book, or maybe you're going to try to get off of your sleeping pill. How does that affect your sleep duration? I typically recommend to look off of sleep duration, light versus deep versus REM sleep. I don't put too much weight into that. Another good reason to do it is if you're changing a specific lifestyle. You're cutting off caffeine afternoon. You're not going to drink alcohol, past 8 o'clock. And how does that impact your sleep and your sleep quality? It's really interesting because sometimes patients will tell me, well, doc, I slept great last night. My sleep tracker said I slept about 7 hours, but man, it says I had a lot of restless sleep. And I'm like, stop. Don't let XYZ company tell you about your subjective experience about sleep because that's yours. That's yours alone. If you wake up refreshed and you feel great, honestly, that is what matters. And do you honestly need to even track your sleep altogether? Um, Anecdotally, I've had some other patients who said that they actually stopped snacking at night, specifically sugars and chips, and they notice more deep sleep, which is sort of interesting because if you avoid processed foods, reportedly that can help with the quality of sleep, help you stay asleep. Processed food has been associated with more arousals at night. What else? Yeah, I think that's really good. Exercise as well. If you are looking for techniques on how to increase deep sleep, I think that's another video in and of itself, but making sure that you're exercising because that is really good for deep sleep. I think as we get older, we're really concerned about deep sleep. That's when our lymphatic system gets turned down. That's when our brain um, toxins get cleaned out throughout the day. And as we get older, we do have less deep sleep. We do have less REM sleep. So if you are concerned about the quality of sleep that you're getting, if you're not getting the standard recommendation for adults, which is between 7 to 9, if you're feeling tired, if you're having to drink more coffee, if your mind is feeling fuzzy, a lot of people are, talk to a healthcare provider about it. If you're in the states of California or Hawaii, you can see me in my private practice, which is called Sleep Life Med. Otherwise, you can reach out and I can help you find a board certified, hopefully fellowship trained sleep physician in your area, or maybe just steer you in right directions with some resources. But at the end of the day, sleep tracking, love it or leave it. I have done some sleep tracking. I'm just not a fan because I don't like to track every little thing that I do. I really basically just wake up and say, do I feel good? I feel good. Then I did okay. A lot of my sleep is sort of predicated on how my kids sleep, if they're coming into our bed, and then how busy my mind is. And so if you're someone who does have a busy mind, I do have some other resources on my channel that talks about different type of meditations to help you fall asleep. One of my favorite is the five senses meditation. And actually learning how to meditate, learning how to slow your mind is also something that is super helpful for your sleep quality. A lot of us are sort of on the go all the time, and then when we put our heads on our pillows and want to try to fall asleep, we don't sleep trackers aren't going to help with any of that unless your sleep tracker has a technology where it can help you sort of look into why you have a hard time winding down. Most of them are just measures of how if you're awake or asleep, or the other one actually measures if you're awake or asleep based on how fast your heartbeat's going through the whole system, called peripheral arterial tone. So yeah, pros and cons of sleep trackers. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, let me know in the comments, and just let me know what other videos you want to learn about. Hope you have a great rest of your Sunday and sleep well, everyone. Bye-bye.